Welcome back to the Dream Lab. My name is John Thomas, and we are going to take a look at another dream that we got from our tribe portal. So let's pull it up and see what we've got. Okay, so this dream is from Patty Crute. Patty Crute, and it's about 2 years old. So this is a dream from a couple years ago for this dreamer. So I'll just read through what she wrote for her dream. And usually I ask dreamers not to share a lot of context. And she made some comments about some of the elements in the dream and some of her thoughts on it. I'm going to tell you the comments about the elements because I think it's going to be helpful to understand what they mean. But I'm not going to give you all the other pieces because I think it'll confuse the dream interpretation more than help it. And we'll talk more about that when we're going through the interpretation in the second half of this video. So let's start out with our dream. Now, this is a little bit of a long one. So if you're one that likes to take notes, this might be one you want to take notes on. I'm sitting in a room with a couple. He is piddling with keys on a piano and she's walking around looking at a paper. I believe that they're trying to decide on a worship set. Now, in waking life, this couple is actually part of the worship team in the dreamer's current church. So that there is context there. I am sitting across from them filling out a form. I get to the last question of the form and I say, I don't know how to answer that. Second scene. Next, I am running down a hallway with a group of ladies. One of them is someone that the dreamer knows from the current church, but the others are unknown. We've missed worship and we want to be on time for the main message. As we run, I see a decorative potted tree with a light colored, maybe a very light gray, sleeping octopus draped around the base, with its tentacles around the bottom part of the trunk and mixed in with the top portion of the potted material. So try to picture that. You've got this very light gray octopus sleeping, and it's draped around the base of this potted tree. The tentacles are wrapped around the base, the bottom part of the trunk, and are actually going into the potting material or the ground that this tree is in the pot. This is on the right side of the hallway, and I'm the only one who notices it. So I pull out my phone for a picture. I decide I need more than one, so I take 3 pictures of it. Next, I'm trying to catch up with the ladies. They kept on running when she stopped to take this picture. And I see my friend, who's the person that is actually from her church today, rounding a corner. When she gets to this corner, she can't see any of them. They're all gone. So I decide to walk back to a staircase that I know leads down to the church foyer, where people are still milling around, not having entered the main sanctuary yet. It's a foyer in the front of the church building with the old swinging type doors to enter the sanctuary. At the bottom of the stairs, there is a woman who looks like she's in her 60s in a very green, classically styled dress, adorned with a corsage, kind of like an Easter Sunday type finery feel to this. And she has perfectly fixed brown short hair and wears glasses. And she's looking up at me like she's waiting for me. And she asks, is it okay if I don't have any family? And I say, well, of course. Kind of the feeling was, well, yeah, you can sit with me. You don't have to have somebody with you to sit with. And so coming down the stairs, it's clear that this woman knows me. And I'm trying to place her, but I can't. Although she seems familiar, but I can't tell where I know her from. So I hug her as I welcome her and I say, I know you, but in truth, she's only familiar and I don't really know who she is. Now, waking up, I realize that this woman reminds me of a high school home economics teacher. Now, this is from 50 years ago, the dreamer wrote, but the woman in my dream looked a lot more stylish. So that's just a little context about this. So you've got you've got a few pieces that are here. So what you're going to do is, well, let's take a look at the dream first, and then we're going to start working through how to interpret it. So in this dreamer, it starts out, they're in a room and there's two other people, a couple, a guy and a girl. The guy's just kind of playing around on the piano. The girl's got a piece of paper. She's kind of walking around like she's trying to figure out a worship set. And they happen to be people that are on the worship team at the church that the dreamer attends. So that's going on. While that's happening, the dreamer is sitting there with a piece of paper and it's a form, and she's trying to fill out to the form. And when she gets to the last question, she realizes, I don't know what the answer is. She says that out loud. That's where that scene ends. Second scene, she is in a hallway with some other ladies. She doesn't know two of them, but the third one she knows, and it's actually somebody that she knows from her current church. So in the first part, you've got people from the worship team from her current church. In the second part, you have this lady who's from her current church. And they realize they've missed the worship part of the church service, but they want to make sure that they're able to get into the sanctuary, into the service in time for the message. They don't want to miss that. And they're kind of running through the hallway so that they're able to get there. As they're going, she's the only one that notices there's a potted plant that's on the right side of this hallway that they're running through. They all run past, and she recognizes that this potted tree has a very light gray octopus that's sleeping on the tree, and it has its tentacles wrapped around the base of the tree and into the potting material that this is in. Now, they don't know whether this is a living tree or if it is a fake tree. It doesn't actually matter to the dream. It's not about that. It's about the octopus that's there. They see it and they realize, I want to take a record of it. So they pull out their phone to take a picture. And when they're taking one picture, they realize, no, I need more than one picture. So they take 3 pictures of this octopus. And then they run off to catch up with their friends. They can see their friend rounding a corner. And so they run up. Once they get around the corner, once the dreamer gets around the corner, their friends are all gone. They don't know where their friends are at or where any of them are at. And so they remember, oh, there's a staircase that I can go down and it'll take me into the foyer. So they go down the staircase. As they're going down the staircase, there is a woman who's standing there. She looks like she's in her 60s, very stylish, green dress, bright, very vivid green dress, very well put together. She's got this corsage, kind of looks like, Easter Sunday finery, short brown hair, really well kept, very stylish, glasses. And it looks like she's waiting for her, like she knew that she was coming. And as she's coming, as the dreamer is coming down the stairs, this woman asks her, I don't have any family with me. Is that okay? And the dreamer is like, well, yeah, you can sit with me. That's okay. That's not a problem. And as she gets down, she realizes this woman knows her, but she can't place that. She looks kind of familiar, but she can't place who she is. She doesn't really know her, but the woman knows her. And so because of that, she kind of feels weird. She's like, oh, I know you. She doesn't, even though she doesn't really know her. And that, actually, I'm going to have to make sure I didn't miss something that was part of that dream. Oh, that was the piece. She hugged her. So she gets down, she hugs her and says, I know you. That's the end of the dream. All right. Lots of pieces here, but there's really only a couple that are important. Now, remember, don't mix up the two scenes. You've got scene 1 and scene 2. Scene 1 is very short, very simple. Scene 2, there's a lot of details to it, but there's not a lot of subfocuses. There's really only 2 subfocuses, maybe 3 that are needed in that whole piece. The rest are details. So don't get too caught up in all the details. Keep the main thing the main thing. So here's your next step. You're going to, here in just a minute, pause this video and work through the interpretation of this dream. If you've taken our Understanding Dreams and Visions course that's on our online classroom, or if you've taken Interpreting Dreams module from Streams Academy, you have the tools. And I want you to come up. What would you title this dream? What title would you give it? What's the focus of the dream, or who's the focus of the dream? What are the sub-focuses? What are the sub-focuses? What are the details that are related to the sub-focuses? And what do they mean? Once you have that, then write out an interpretation of this dream. How would you communicate this to the dreamer? Once you're ready and you have an interpretation, then you're going to start the video back up again, and I'll let you know what I got on this dream, and we'll walk through what it means and how to think about the different pieces, and then maybe some application for the dreamer. And like I mentioned in one of our earlier episodes, recognizing the timing. This is from about 2 years ago. So the application is probably going to be a little bit different than what it would if we would have interpreted this a month after or a week after they had it. But we've got to pray and see what the Lord says, and that's where we're going to come up with this understanding. So go ahead, work through the dream, and when you're ready, start the video again, and we'll see you back here in the lab. Welcome back to the lab. I hope you had fun with this dream. Lots of pieces, lots of journey, and I had fun trying to come up with a title for this one. I get stuck with one particular element, which is always difficult when you're interpreting, but sometimes it makes for a fun title. So I'm just going to call this one, Why the Octopus? ? Because that's the question that I got left with. And really, it's a kind of a core element to this dream where there's a lot of pieces. Now, when we actually look at the interpretation, it's not that core. It's a smaller piece, but it's important. So good enough for a title. Curious, what did you come up with a title? Type it into the comments. Let us know. I'd love to find maybe some more creative titles that we have for this dream. So let's start going through the different pieces. Who or what is the focus? Well, the focus is going to be the dreamer, both in the first scene and in the second scene. First scene, if it was all like the first scene, you could almost wonder if it was participating, but the real activity is actually around the dreamer. So even in that, it's the dreamer. So Patty is our focus. So in the first scene, your sub-focus is just going to be the couple. So you've got Patty, who's the dreamer, and then you've got this couple. Now, you have the guy playing around with the keys, so detail would be keys. The woman looking at the sheet, and so the understanding that she's trying to figure out a worship set. So you could just put as a detail off the couple, worship, or you could put keys and you could put sheet, up to you. I'm just going to put worship because it doesn't really matter that it was keys, doesn't really matter that it was a sheet. It's just the fact that it was worship. And the dream actually interprets that part for us, which is very helpful because she knew that they were trying to figure out a worship set. So a lot of times in dreams, the dreamer will know something that actually gives you the interpretation to what the element is that they're watching. And that's what happened here. But the dreamer is filling out a form and doesn't know the answer to the last question. So you've got off of the dreamer, you have the couple, that would be your one sub-focus. And then you could put the form as a sub-focus or a detail, or you could put the question as a sub-focus of the detail. But I don't know would also be a part of that. I don't know the answer to this question. Scene changes. So that first part, there's something related to do with worship that the dreamer doesn't understand. Something related with worship that the dreamer doesn't understand. That's the first scene. Second scene. Now, you've got relationship here between the first scene and the second scene, which is going to tell us a little bit of the context and our understanding of the dream. The fact that the couple were part of the worship team at the church that the dreamer goes to, And then the part, one of the ladies that's kind of core in this second part of it was also part of the church. So there's no place to put their church on this, but the whole thing happens in the context of the church. So this is related to church. Now, we still are going to have to figure out whether it's actually the Dreamers Church or church in general, but either way, it's related to church. And so you could put church as a sub-focus, or sometimes what I will do is when it's something that just the whole context, but it doesn't really change the plot, it's just where it all happens, I'll just set it up to the top next to where the title is so that I can just remember that that's the context, or I'll just leave it off the diagram and remember it in my memory. So I'm not actually going to put church as a sub-focus in this. I'm going to start putting the details. So let's start out with our sub-focuses. In this, you've got this hallway, you've got the octopus, and then you've got the lady at the bottom of the stairs. Those are our three sub-focuses that are part of this. So the hallway, off of the hallway, I'm going to put the three ladies that she is with at first. Now, they're just a detail. They don't really interact a whole bunch, and they actually kind of disappear. They don't even recognize that there's an octopus there. So you don't want to put a whole bunch of weight on that. That's just a detail. It's just kind of giving context and tying it into that it's related to the Dreamers Church, because one lady goes to the Dreamers Church, even though the other two people are not people that she knows. So is it just saying that it's talking about that group, that it's the whole group, or is it's the Dreamers Church, but also other churches that are involved? It feels to me like it's more the Dreamers Church, but we're going to leave that hanging, and we're going to come back to it when we get more of the dream so that we can be sure that we're right. So you can have an idea, and you don't have to like settle it like, oh, this is definitely what it is at first. The rest of the dream, once you get all the pieces together, it helps to clarify all the pieces so that you can understand it better. So hallway, transition. What's the other detail that's important off of the hallway? They had missed worship, and they were trying to get the message. So you could put missed worship, and then you could put message. That would be your key. So this is also one of the clues. We're going to tie that back in when we get to the interpretation, because worship was in the first scene. So we know that there's something key here. Hallways often talk about transition. So we understand transition. We understand that there's a group of people that have missed worship, but they're trying to get to the message, and they're in transition. Now, octopus. So our important details off of this sub-focus. We've got the potted tree, and we've got the fact that it's asleep. Those are our two main pieces. And then the third piece, the third detail, would be the fact that the dreamer takes three pictures. So three pictures. Remember, they knew that one was not enough, so they took three pictures to make sure that they've got this. So octopus, what does an octopus represent? Octopus will often represent a Jezebel spirit. Now, I'm very tempted to get into a teaching about Jezebel. This is not the time and the place for it. We've got some great teachings. John Paul's book, Unmasking the Jezebel Spirit, very, very helpful. He even did a Dreams and Mysteries episode on Jezebel. Those are helpful resources for you to get into, to learn a little bit more about it. But this is asleep. It's not actually affecting anything, but it is in the environment, and it's asleep. What is it attached to? It's attached to a tree, but it's not a tree that's in the middle of the, it's not like a huge tree in the middle of the sanctuary and a huge tree in the middle of the foyer. So this is something that is connected to decoration. We're not quite sure. Is this a living tree or is this a decorative tree? But it's a potted plant. So a potted plant is more of a decoration. It's not something that's necessarily growing in the environment, but it's something that has the semblance of leadership. Trees often represent leadership. And there's a Jezebel spirit that's just sleeping. It's there, it's dormant, but it needs to be recognized, and most people aren't recognizing it. So it's there, it's dormant, but most people aren't recognizing it. The other three ladies just, they run by, but the dreamer is recording this, the pictures. So pictures are capturing something. It could be proof. Hey, this really is here. I'm going to bring attention to this. So it's capturing it. It's documenting it. And it's not just one thing, but that it has to be well documented. So when the dreamer recognizes this issue, even though it's dormant, it has to be well documented for it to be taken seriously. All right, next part of the thing. The dreamer tries to catch up with their friends. Can't find their friends, so they're just going to go and get involved in the life of the church. So they take the staircase down into the foyer, and this is where there's the lady in green. So here's your next sub-focus is this lady, and here's your details. She is older, you could put 60-ish. She's wearing green dress. She's well styled. She's very well put together. You've got all these pieces. And here's another important detail. She knows the dreamer, but the dreamer doesn't actually know her. There's familiarity, but she doesn't know her. And then the question, I don't have my family with me. Is that okay? Oh yeah, you can sit with me. So not having a connection, but being given connection. Couple pieces here. What does this lady represent? Is this an actual person, or is this just representing in general? It's probably not. She's probably not going to meet someone that actually looks like this. This person in the dream represents someone and is not there. There is a key in the fact that she meets this person directly after taking the pictures of the octopus. So there's something that is there, something that's related to that. And this connection, the dreamer trying to be nice lies. I know you. Oh, I know you. I don't really know you, but you're kind of familiar. And so there's deception that's involved with this person. Everything looks really good on the surface. They look harmless. They look nice. But there's deception that is involved. You've got a couple things in looking at this whole dream. One, that there's something missing related to worship. There's a key that needs to be understood. Worship is being missed in the environment because people are just about the main message. This is the main thing. And because people are caught up in the main thing, but not the worship of God, what they get out of it instead of what they give to God, that it's actually left something that's been dormant in that environment that is manipulative and is dangerous spiritually, and people are not recognizing it. People are not seeing it. It looks very familiar, and it uses pity to draw people in. It looks like everything is good and everything is right on the surface, but there's something not right below the surface. This is a warning dream. This is to call for prayer. And for the dreamer, when you see the octopus, even if it is dormant, make sure that you document well what you've seen, because just one example is not going to be enough. There's going to need to be multiple documentations to prove that it's there, because it does not look like what people think. Kind of feels like a heavy interpretation, but I actually feel like there's a heaviness to this dream. I have a couple warnings in my spirit as I'm thinking about it, as I'm talking about it. Here's something that I'm concerned with. I would be concerned if I had this dream, if I was the dreamer, I would be concerned with just running off and starting to point at things. Oh, that's Jezebel. Oh, that's Jezebel. Oh, that's bad. That's not the point of this dream. There was nothing of, I need to go and get somebody to take care of this. That's not in the dream. Recognizing that it's there, getting involved in the life of the church anyways. But there is a warning of not letting yourself look like something that you're not, because not everything looks the way that it actually is. So there is a warning there. I have a question mark in my mind. It feels right in my spirit, but it's a big question mark in my mind. Why, when I got to this lady, is it feels so negative when on the surface it looks good, right? That's a question mark that is there, because just looking at the dream, there's nothing that seems very obvious that there's negative. The only thing that's there is this kind of underlying communication that's going on, and the fact that the dreamer responds in a deceptive way, which then, the question is, if I were the dreamer, is that something that I would do? Would I just tell somebody what they wanted to hear to make them feel good? But it feels like it's connected. Right. So I'm feeling a little bit of a warning that is there, which is a little bit interesting, because normally I wouldn't want to go there. I don't want to go there, but I wouldn't want to go there with a dream like this. But it seems to warrant it in the dream. There's some connection. And one of the things that the dreamer said as one of their comments was that this lady that was in her 60s, that it kind of reminded them of a school teacher that they'd had from 50 years before. So there's this connection with some of the things that they learned in their childhood, some of who they are, that's being brought to the surface in this season because of the environment that they're in. The clear things is, Lord, give me revelation so that I don't miss the questions that are being asked, because I don't want to miss out on worship. That in the environment of understanding worship and how worship should go, that there are questions that need to be understood. So Lord, give me revelation. Don't let me miss this. In the dream, we missed worship, but we're trying to get there in time for the message. Lord, don't let us miss out on worship. Let us focus on ministering to you first. Let that be the priority. Let us recognize how important that is, that there's a cry and there's an intercessor. I'm feeling like this intercessory piece that's part of this. And so a little bit about this, there's interaction with you, but there's also, this is not just about you. There's something bigger than just you as the dreamer in this. So don't take on, part of my feeling is this question of if there would be a pulling in or a taking on of a condemnation thing. And that is not what is intended on this. There's a reason for the Lord revealing this, and you're actually you're pursuing, you're seeing things that other people are missing. So don't go down that negative path in your response, and be careful in how you communicate. If you were interpreting this dream for someone, you would have to be careful with how you communicate. and being aware that while you're interpreting the dream, you have the elements and you have the pieces, but while you're holding on to those parts that your mind is making some sense of, that your spirit is fully engaged and you're looking for revelation. You can't figure dreams out only by looking at the dream and knowing, well, this symbol means this and this symbol means this. There's the whole aspect of the revelation that gets tied into this so that we can get to what God intended. Dreams are only interpreted, truly interpreted by revelation, not by knowledge. And you can have a dream dictionary that tells you, well, this means this, and have every element lined out. And it's probably not going to help you interpret very many dreams if you think that that's actually what it means. It's that reliance on revelation more than the knowledge. There's pieces that are there. There's symbols that are there. There's principles that are there. But pressing in for that revelation and being willing to let that revelation guide the conversation. And one of the things that I've found very helpful in dream interpretation, and you guys just watch this demonstrate as I've walked through this dream interpretation, because when we started the camera just now for this interpretive process, I did not know what this dream meant. I had maybe a little piece here or there, but I would not have been able to communicate an interpretation. I didn't have it. But it was through the communication, by talking through these pieces, it is starting to come together. I'm starting to get pieces and I'm getting revelation, and I can feel things and I can discern things, and I'm getting some of it out of the dream. I'm getting some of it out of the dreamer. I'm getting some of it out of the conversation as it's happening. There's more that's going on there. And don't be afraid to go with those pieces and continue to talk it through. Don't just grab, oh, I've got a little piece, I'm just gonna run with it, that's all of it. But allow the revelation to massage the interpretation until you get the fuller picture of it, so that you're not just giving the first piece, because too often we get a little bit from God and we run off with that little bit and we haven't gotten the full picture. So keep the conversation going till you have a little bit more. So this was a fun one. I mean, it was fun because I'm discovering the interpretation as we're going through it, but you guys are getting to see that process. And sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes we get stuck on the interpretation, and then it's through that working through it, and really many times it's through the talking through it that more revelation comes. So press in and don't give up if you don't have that immediate sense of what it is. Just start talking through the pieces that you do get and watch how the Lord begins to fill in the other pieces. Rely on revelation more than process. All right, so application. I've already given some pieces. Pay attention. When you recognize it, document it well. Focus on worship, because this is, overall, that this is not a dream that is saying this is the way that it is, that this is an invitation. You're recognizing some dynamics, but there's some movement there. And so praying for that worship, that it doesn't get missed, praying that you get that revelation of what the missing pieces are. There's going to be some pieces that you don't understand, but you're not pursuing just understanding the message. You're pursuing worship. You're pursuing the presence of God. And yeah, there's some negative things, but those negative things are dormant. Don't get caught up with people pleasing, because that'll actually draw you into something that's not the way that it looks. And you're going to find that in this process, your heart is going to get healed of some things that have been set for, I mean, you said it was over 50 years since you had that teacher. Some things that have been set in your life since childhood. The Lord is bringing some of those things out and bringing it to the surface, and He's giving you answers that you didn't have, and it's time for a new season. It feels like in the midst of transition that you've actually lost out on some relationships, but the Lord is going to bring you into the place where you need to be at the right time so that you don't miss out on anything. Keep pursuing Him first. That's the most important piece. Well, I'm praying that this is a blessing, that this is a helpful Dream Lab, not just for our dreamer, but for the rest of you that are watching, that you learned something out of this. We're going to keep going. So I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Dream Lab. Until then, keep dreaming and keep trusting that God will give you the answer if you seek Him for it.